and Audacity in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Lynn, and I'm here with my co-host, Marissa Roy. And in today's episode, we have a very special guest with us. If you've been in the fitness scene for a while, this is one of the OGs. We have Emily Hayden with us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to chat with you. And if you could share a little bit with our audience about who you are and kind of your background.
Yeah, so my name is Emily Hayden. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I went from Texas to LA to kind of chase my dreams and experience the California lifestyle back in about 2014 or so. I was in Los Angeles for about 7 years. That was a pretty big leap of faith for me. Initially, when I did it, I had moved a lot of my business online. So I did have the opportunity to be mobile, but I didn't have like an exact thing bringing me out there. It was more so just I felt like that's where I needed to be. When I visited, I felt like I was alive in a way that I wasn't when I was at home. So taking that leap of faith, moving across the country was such a just pivotal moment in my life. And I got to accomplish some really incredible dreams by being out in LA and the opportunities that came with that. I got to be in Oxygen magazine multiple times, which was always like a huge, big goal of mine. I was competing at the time. When I moved out there, I was a national competitor. I ended up doing 14 shows, 7 national shows, earning my pro card in 2016 at the USA's. So I was an IFBB Bikini Pro. I competed as a pro for quite a few years. And then when 2020 hit, I actually moved back to Texas because I was paying a lot of rent to kind of be confined to my apartment because there wasn't much that you were allowed to do in Los Angeles. So I went back to Texas for freedom and a little bit of breathing room, literally. And it was incredible. And now I'm actually currently spending some time in California right now. So it's been quite a whirlwind. I have a podcast, an online coaching business. I work with women all over the world. I'm a retreat host. I would say retreats are probably the number one favorite thing that I do. That's when I'm in my flow. I love hosting just open space for people to come and work on their personal development, connect with others, connect with themselves. And yeah, that's a little recap about me and what I've done over the years.
Nice. Just you really condensed that really well. Most of the time we're like, tell us a little about yourself, and like we get the whole life story, but I felt like that was very concise and very thorough at the same time. So I guess, I mean, where do we really want to start? I mean, I think just kind of going into like the ebbs and flows of your life, like for background for everybody listening, if you're new to the podcast, we started this podcast in 2020, so we don't have people from like maybe we do from following us from like 2016, 2015, but we've been, tuned into your journey and like the progress that you've made in not only like bodybuilding, but just your career and your overall growth and development since literally like I would say 2015 for me or so.
Wow.
And I remember like I would watch your YouTube videos when I was doing my first contest prep when I was a baby back in 2016, like on the Stairmaster, I was doing intervals and I was like, I'm going to be motivated. Like I'm going to watch Emily Hayden. And like now seeing, kind of how everything has evolved and no pun intended, evolved and developed, with your brand and everything that you do, like I think I've continued to resonate with the message that you put out, regardless of what season of life you've been in or what I've been in, because now, just kind of looking at things from a more holistic lens and just really having like resiliency and toughness through all the changes that life has put you through. I think it's been really cool to kind of grow with you in a sense. So, I mean, tell us like kind of a little bit about in terms of just the journey competing and that season of your life, like what was it like just going through those trials and really like building up that resiliency to, I remember the moment where you earned your pro card and we watched the YouTube video for it. I was like, oh my God, this is our moment. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much, both of you guys, for just being in support for so many years. I think it says a lot to have those connections that feel aligned no matter what season you're in. And I really appreciate that. And it's really cool to hear that when you felt you wanted to be motivated, that you would watch my videos, because it's always an idea, a hope in my mind and heart that like, I really hope people get something out of this. I hope they, get some sort of positivity or drive for their life. And to hear that that is what actually occurred is always, it's just awesome to hear. So thank you. And yeah, competing for me was a platform for personal development. So competing, yeah, I love training. I love fitness. I wanted to set new goals, which is why I got into competing in the first place. And then I loved stage. So once I got on the stage, I was like, oh my gosh, like I love this. It's so much fun. I love that I get to be, grungy and hardcore in the gym. And then when I get to show it off, I get to be pretty and have my makeup done and my hair done. And I get to present something really beautiful on stage. I just loved both aspects of that, because I feel like it really just showed both aspects of me. That's always been me. Like my dad always used to say when I was younger, he's like, you can totally throw down with the guys, play football, get tackled, and then like go take a shower, do your hair and put a dress on and heels and go out for the night. It's totally my personality. So I felt like, I was drawn to the bodybuilding world for multiple reasons. But man, I got so much more out of bodybuilding than I initially expected, and the discipline that it requires to compete, and the discipline it requires to compete at a national level, and then at a, earning your pro card level, and then at a pro level, it's just next level. Like you really have to be in such an elite level mindset in order to achieve those things. And so for me, it gave me a really practical way to practice discipline, to practice self-control, to learn how to look for the positive and everything. Because the truth is it's really freaking hard. Like, I don't care who you are, like competing is so difficult. It really is. And there's so many challenges that come with that. And on my YouTube channel, I really made it a desire of mine to share the real picture of what it actually looks like. So yeah, I showed a lot of workouts. I showed my progress updates, but you're also going to find multiple videos of me online crying, and I'm not shameful about that, because I feel like it helps people to see the real picture of what it looks like to push through the struggle. Because yeah, maybe I'm pushing through the struggle of bodybuilding challenge, but the truth is, like, during my entire bodybuilding journey, I had so many things going on in my own life and in my personal life that bodybuilding actually gave me such a healthy outlet to process through those things. There was one season, actually is how my entire brand Evolve started. And it was when I started the YouTube series Evolve. I did 50 episodes in that series. I filmed, edited, produced, did it all myself. Like I'd be up till 2 a.m. working on the video, getting it posted. I'd be up at 6 a.m. for cardio. I would work all day long. Like I was in this grind, mode. But during that season, I wanted to give people a realistic picture of what it looks like to evolve. To evolve is to choose to never remain the same. It's actually choosing the uncomfortable, choosing growth, choosing the challenge, to face it head on, face all of your fears with courage, and to go through it, which sucks. Like, it sounds cute. It sounds like, oh, I'm going to evolve, and my logo is the butterfly. It's really pretty. But like, before you get to that part, you got to go into the cocoon, and it's dark. And there's a lot of dark moments and things that you have to face. And sometimes you feel isolated, you feel alone. Sometimes that comes with hard conversations and decisions that you have to make in life. But all of those things have what led me to where I'm at today. So the challenges that I faced were really developed even further by being in bodybuilding, because I was able to, face different challenges, the practicality of bodybuilding with the diet and the training and the cardio. And as I was building strength in my discipline, in my mindset, in my actual physical being, I was building so much more strength in my mind. And once I was able to prove to myself over and over and over again that when I thought I couldn't, that I could, I was able to apply that to every other aspect of my life. So when I was heartbroken and I was down on my kitchen floor, crying my eyes out, feeling like I was literally going to die from heartbreak, I knew that I could. I knew that I could come above and rise above this moment. And I did. I wiped my tears, I got my gym bag, and I went to the gym. So bodybuilding for me is it's just a platform for life. It's a platform for personal development and personal growth. And that's why I've loved sharing it with everyone, because it's just been such an impactful journey in my life.
I love that. One thing you mentioned that I'm curious to kind of go in on a little bit more is what you mentioned. You said an elite level mindset is what it takes to compete. But I think, when we talk about just personal development and growth, like I don't want to keep this conversation siloed to just competing, because I think most of our audience is just in it for, being healthier, living a better lifestyle, and challenging themselves as individuals. So what does it take to develop an elite level mindset?
I think one of the first things that you have to do is you have to set commitments for yourself, and then you have to keep them consistently without missing a single day. So one of the things that I did in order to help teach other people this is I created a program that initially started as the 90 Days of Excellence. And my goal was to instill excellence in other people, to instill this champion mentality into others. That's now been rebranded into my Evolve X program. But the entire idea and concept there is I really looked at what I did to attain pro status, what I did to attain this elite level mindset, this champion mentality, where I truly do believe in myself fully. And I was like, how can I teach that to others? How can I instill that in people, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, and no matter what they want to apply that to in life? And what I've found is it's not these big overarching moments. It's not this moment of success. It's not this, world shattering idea. It's the simple things that no one wants to do. And it's being consistent in those things over a long period of time. So what I do in that program is I help people to set these daily actions and then to keep them, and every single day be accountable to them. And what I've found is by keeping these promises to yourself and being consistent with these challenges that you have inside of your life, you're able to build confidence. Because what happens is, let's say that you just say, okay, this is a great exercise for the listeners right now. Make a promise to yourself that for the next 14 days, you're going to do something very specific. It would be something like, and it can start small, it doesn't have to be a crazy challenge, but start with something that you know that you can keep. Like, okay, every single day at 12, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk while I listen to a podcast to improve my mindset. And every single day that you do it, write off a check mark on your calendar so that you can physically see it. What's going to happen is at the end of the 14 days, you're going to look back and you're going to feel proud. You're going to feel confident, and you're going to have what you need to set bigger goals. So, and that can be, changed based on who you are and where you're at. If you're someone that you feel like you have a pretty strong mindset already, set something that's really challenging for yourself. That's really hard. That sucks. Maybe you're waking up in the morning and you're doing cold showers or cold plunges and you don't want to do it. Everything in you doesn't want to do it, but you overcome it. I know it seems small, it seems simple, like just a cold shower, but when you practice the art of overcoming, you become an unstoppable force. So that's what I like to help people do, is to practice that art of overcoming.
I love that. The art of overcoming. That's like so eloquent.
Thanks.
I definitely agree with you just in building confidence and trust with yourself, because I think a big part of the reason that so many people are stuck in, say, their fitness journey is they have all of this proof in their past to not trust themselves of, I've set these goals, I've made these promises to myself, and I've broken them every single time. And a lot of women go decades and decades and decades not overcoming those issues. And so basically, I think the principle is so simple, right? It's like, do something small every day and just commit to it. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how small it is, but it's just something that you can actually build trust with yourself again. And I like to think of it as like low-hanging fruit, right? Like start with the thing that, like, if you set a goal to do it 7 days a week, you would say, well, that's dumb. Like, I can do that in my sleep. Okay, well then why aren't you? Like, let's do it. Let's prove it to yourself. And then once you can do that, you build that trust with yourself, and then you can set a goal that is a little bit more difficult and requires a little bit more pushing out of your comfort zone to get there. And then over time, you just build that trust and that confidence to continue setting bigger and bigger goals and continue, like you said, overcoming so many more challenges. And I think a lot of women tend to hear what you say of like, do something every single day and kind of take it to the extreme of, well, that means I need to be perfect. Like my diet, my exercise, everything needs to be 120% tomorrow, even though I've been doing 0% of it. But I think it's just really important to emphasize what you said of just one thing, just one little thing, and then build on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really just placing significance on the small moments that people would see as insignificant. So even during my competition preps, I would tell myself if I was eating lunch, this is the meal that determines if I go pro or not. When I was inside of the gym, not even the whole set. I would say, if say I'm on rep 10 and I have to get 12 reps, I would say, this is the rep that determines if I go pro or not. And I know that seems like really extreme, but for me, I had to practice that amount of significance on the small moments in order to get myself to rise above, because it's really easy to do a set of 12 and you're not really even thinking about rep 10. You just do the set of 12, right? But when you're like, this is the rep that makes or breaks me, you're going to show up differently. So like imagine people in their families, maybe they want to be a better mom, they want to be a better wife, they want to be a better partner, whatever it is, business partner. What if you place significance on this moment and you didn't just see it as an insignificant moment, or you didn't just expect to have the next few days to make it better? What if today you were to say, you know what, I want to be the most excellent version of myself right now, today, in this moment? And it doesn't mean that you're never going to mess up, because you are, but people with an excellent mentality, champion mentality, they're the ones that are able to bounce back quickest. It's not that they never mess up, they bounce back quick. So when you do mess up, not getting down on yourself, not judging yourself. Yeah, you got to be responsible. You got to take accountability for it. But then what are you going to do about it? And how quickly can you start to do that? Too often people say, oh, I messed up, I'll do better tomorrow. No. If you ate pizza for lunch and you're not supposed to be eating pizza on your diet right now, then go have a protein shake next and get your vitamins and greens in after that. Continue having your water throughout the rest of the day. Like immediately take action, immediately bounce back. And if you do that, you'll stop feeling like you have to be perfect 24/7. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to bounce back. You do have to take responsibility, and you do have to decide that it's going to be the very next moment when you get back on your program, or, you know, the mindset or whatever it is that you're kind of going after.
I love that. And I know that obviously you're aligned with First Forum. And so you're very like, you know, Andy Frisella. And I feel like a lot of what he preaches, like you are very much aligned. And I feel like it's very similar to like the concept of 75 hard, right? It's like, it's just the small things day in and day out, that if you win your day, well, then eventually you're going to win your week. And if you win your weeks, you're going to win your month. And so I really love that it's like you said, a lot of people kind of feel like, oh, I'm going to finally be successful once I have this big moment, but it's not, and I feel like you have a really good way of breaking it down. And it's like, no, and I feel like it was especially during your preps and your videos, it's kind of like, if I can do anything for like 1 minute, if I can do anything for like just one more hour, then I can make it through this day. So I feel like, I love that idea for people who are listening, where it's like, it may feel very insignificant what you're doing today, but those actions consistently over time are really, really going to add up.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying is definitely something that I really had to live by when things felt insurmountable, whether it was personal life things that I was going through, or it was something like I'm sore and aching and tired, and I don't know if I can get through this entire cardio session, right? There were different moments in my life where looking at the whole day ahead was too much. I don't know if any listeners listening right now have ever felt that way, where you look at the whole day ahead, you look at your schedule and all the things you have going on, and all the demands that are coming for you, and you think, this is too much, I can't handle this, I feel overwhelmed. The way to get out of overwhelm is literally to get out of your head, stop looking at the day ahead, and look at the thing that's right in front of you. What can you do for the next 60 seconds? You know, sometimes I would break it down into 60 minutes, and other times I had to break it down into literally 60 seconds. Like, can I do my best for 60 seconds? And I would do that. And then I'd say, okay, to be honest, I did it and it wasn't that hard. Let me do another 60 seconds and let me do that to the best of my ability. And simply by bringing the focus into the present moment, I was able to get through literally anything and everything. And it's like, once you unlock that, once you show yourself that, you stop giving so much power to forecasting in the future, feeling so overwhelmed by what you have, that you're like, actually, moment by moment, I genuinely have what I need and I'm going to be okay. And so just kind of bringing it back to that present moment, I feel is really powerful. And something else with that is, you know, not just breaking it down, but you mentioned I'll be successful when this happens, right? Same thing goes for happiness. I feel like people are always saying, no matter what season they're in, no matter what's going on, they're like, I'll be happy when X, Y, and Z, and I, even right now, have a lot of things going on in my life. And I found myself saying something similar the other day, and I like corrected it right away. Cause I was like, okay, when X, Y, and Z is taken care of and done, I'll be good. Like I'll be happy. And I was like, oh, no, not today. That has to get out of here. I'm not having that mindset. I can be happy now. I can be grateful now. And it's always just reminding yourself that idea that happiness is for later, that is like it's such a lie. Like you can be happy right now. And oftentimes it takes you centering yourself in gratitude and getting present in the moment and really like truly appreciating everything that you have in the moment. Because if you'll do that, you'll realize that happiness is there. It's always a choice. So don't get caught in the lie or the trap that happiness is when you move to this place, when you make this big change, because it's like a dangling carrot that you're never going to feel or reach. And how sad would it be if today was your last day on earth and you never experienced gratitude and happiness because you thought it was coming next week?
Man, I love that, because one thing I ask people a lot of times when I just like you, I'm very particular on language, and I get very nitpicky with people. Well, like when they've put themselves in the position where they do want to be mentored by me, like say they're a client, I will be very picky with their language. I won't just do it to like the random person off the street usually.
Right.
But if they want my advice, then what they're going to get is I'm going to be very particular about the way that they speak about themselves and the way that they kind of talk about those things. And something that I've had to ask a few people lately is I kind of just try to get a better gauge for like where someone really stands with that by asking them like, do you believe that happiness is chosen, earned, given, found? Like, where do you believe that like this happens? And like that, the answer to that question tells you so much about how somebody views the world. And then I'll follow that up with like, okay, well then what's stopping you from believing that you could just choose it? And it really is as simple as making a choice. But I guess my question for you is, like, how would you encourage somebody to make that choice if they're under the belief that it is given or it is found or it is earned rather than something that they can just have right now?
I think often people are walking throughout life with these sunglasses on that doesn't allow them to see what's right in front of them. And I think the challenge is to take those sunglasses off and really open your eyes and open your perspective to what's already right in front of you. No matter what you're going through in life, there is always something to be grateful for. I remember when I was in between places to live and I had left my family home. There was a lot of family trauma and things that had happened. And for whatever reason, I found myself isolated and alone. And I spent some nights in my car because I didn't have a place to live. And I remember in that being like, thank God I have a car. Like, if not, I would literally be on the street, like I would literally not have a place to sleep tonight. And so I was just so thankful for that car. And I remember thinking like, I'm just so thankful I have a car to go to work because right now I'm able to get a paycheck. And if I'm able to get a paycheck, that's an opportunity. That means I can get out of this situation. I can create a better life for myself, right? So no matter what you're going through in life, I think gratitude is the key to bringing yourself present and to allowing yourself to experience happiness. And that's going to change throughout life, right? Like, this is the human experience. I think too often we try so hard, myself included, to avoid pain. Pain doesn't feel good. Loss doesn't feel good. Being uncomfortable doesn't feel good. But that's kind of why I have created and cultivated a life where I chase uncomfortable moments on purpose, because it conditions you to be able to handle the uncomfortable moments of life even better. A really practical way that I do that is through cold plunging. I literally never want to get in that cold water. Like now I know I'm like, I will be glad after I do it, but I'm never like, yes, I can't wait to freeze my butt off in this cold water. No, like I do it. And then what's amazing is I really have seen the effects and the benefits in stressful situations where, something is happening. And I've noticed that my internal temperature, so to speak, it's so much more calm and stable and peaceful. And I'm truly able to handle things so much better. So what I found is that we can't avoid these painful things in life. It's literally just a part of the human experience. But what we can do is develop ourselves to be able to handle these things better, which in my experience provides for a more peaceful life, a happier life, an ability to bounce back better, knowing full well that you still experience pain and loss and heartbreak and all those things, right? But having tools to experience them in a different way is very beneficial.
I think that's really important to point out, that it's like you have this deeper and more elite mindset, but it's not that you don't go through heartbreak. It's not that you don't experience difficult things. It's just that you have more kind of tools in your toolbox for how you're going to control yourself in that situation, how you're going to react to things. Because I think we talk a lot about stress perception and how you can have two people, going back to your example of like living in your car, that two people are going through that exact same experience, but you are choosing to be grateful in that moment. Oh, thank God I have my car. Thank God I have this. Whereas another person, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. I can't believe, X, Y, Z. So I think that that's really important, that having this mindset doesn't mean that you just don't experience tough things anymore.
Absolutely. And even hearing you say like having this like elite mindset, right? Like I've had to really cultivate a strong mentality, but I still feel like I'm at like ground zero. Like I have so much more to learn and grow. And the more I learn, the more I'm like, I don't know anything, but I do really work on developing a strong mindset. I think there's a lot of practical things that you can do for that. And I love sharing that with others. But with that, I have weak moments just like everyone else. I have moments where I'm like, you would not categorize it as even a strong mindset at all. So like I still experience those things, but everything that I'm doing and cultivating, it does help me, I think, to get through those things better and to return to the strong mindset that I have. So it's really important for me that people hear this and they don't think that I go throughout life with this perfect, strong mindset all the time. Like, I'll call my bestest friends, right? And I call them and they see the ugly parts. They see the part where I'm like, there's no hope, right? Like I still experience all of those things. So I just think it's important to mention that so that no one ever judges themselves based on a perception that isn't reality, if that makes sense. Like I'm human just like everyone else.
Yeah, well, I think that part of having a strong mentality is understanding that going through the hard emotions and the hard like mental states is part of it, is like a part of the journey, right? And so something that I've been working on a lot is training myself to just be in a more like positive, abundant, like just overall like more energetic state, because I realized that I was like kind of just in an anxious state like all the time, and like it was really starting to affect like my work and my work-life balance and like everything I thought about all the time. And I recognize now in hindsight that every day I have a choice and I have to do certain things to put myself into that position, into that mindset. And have you read Do Hard Things by Steve Magnus?
I've not.
Okay, so you will love that book.
Okay.
But basically I was listening to, I actually haven't read it. I listened to the author on another podcast and they were just going in on the book. And I was like, well, I haven't read this yet, but I know I would love it. I know other people would love it as well. But they were kind of talking about how like most people kind of operate on like a chronic 3 or 4 out of 10 stress level. Like that's just like where they operate. And then when something bad happens or something stressful happens, like their stress perception, like Christina was saying, jumps up to like a 11 out of 10, and they're just like, everything is doomed. But the whole principle of doing hard things, whether that's a cold plunge or shower, or, making yourself do something that is uncomfortable every single day, that is a commitment to yourself, those things are what breed your baseline perception of stress to just be lower. And so you might just be operating better at like a 1 or 2 out of 10. And then when something happens, like it only kind of brings you up to like a 5 out of 10, because you just know how to manage the way that feels, because it's uncomfortable to be in a bad situation, but you just have practiced it so much more. And I think it just like brings to surface like the importance of viewing this as a practice rather than something that you just have or you don't have.
Totally.
Like kind of building a skill, and like discipline is a skill. Building, doing these hard things, it's a skill, it's a practice. It's not something that you ever perfect. And I like to use the term practice for that reason, because you'll never get to a destination when utilizing a practice.
Yeah. And it's the same mentality of like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Right. So if you're not actively working on these things, it's so easy to fall back into old habits and patterns. And, something that you were mentioning when you realized that you were living from this like anxious state. I remember like multiple times where I caught myself in that. Like there's one moment for some reason that sticks out where I just had, things back to back in my schedule. And then I like get in my car and I have just enough time to get to the gym to get my hour and a half in. Like everything's down to the T in my schedule, right? And I got in the gym, and for whatever reason, I just stopped for a second and I like tuned in. And I always like to I put my hand on my heart and I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, how are you feeling right now? And I realized how much anxious energy was inside of me. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. Like, if I'm operating from anxiety, then when I'm showing up in my business conversations or on a podcast or on these different things, it's like I'm bringing that anxious energy. And for me, it's an unseen like frequency, right? And if you're putting that out there into the world, you're just operating at a different level. And my goal is to operate from a space of love. Like love is where I believe we all come from. And I believe that the challenge in life is to return to that love. In that love is presence, is peace, is abundance, is all of those things. And so if I'm not operating out of that, I believe that what I'm creating, how I'm speaking, what I'm doing is also not producing that result that I would like to produce. So for me, a simple practice of just checking in with myself and creating moments of stillness within the day really helps. Even if that's, you get to your destination and you're 5 minutes early and you just sit in your car with no music and just check in with yourself. Like, hey, how are you really? What's going on? And you might realize, oh, I'm stressed. Why are you stressed out? Because I have all these things to do. Okay, well, what are you in control of? Well, I can show up for this meeting right now. Okay, go do that. Right. And those simple little conversations with yourself to break it down, because I feel like oftentimes stress and overwhelm, a lot of that is just us being in our head about future events that haven't happened yet, or maybe it's conversations that we need to have with people. Sometimes that can really play a role in anxiety as well. And simply by going and tying up all these loose ends, you can relieve that anxiety. So sometimes the anxiety is like, by our own mind. And I feel like other times it can be just things that are left unsaid or undone that we need to go and take care of. And by practically taking care of those things, we could relieve a lot of that stress.
Yeah, I think there's so many themes here of just the thing that keeps recurring over and over again in this conversation that I love is just the skill of practice, like the practice of living in the present and like checking in with yourself. And like everything that we have talked about revolves around the fact that you have to bring yourself out of your head, stop living in the future, stop living in the past, and just be there with yourself. I like to use the phrase, be where your feet are, and just be present. And a lot of things can really start to self-correct from there. Like obviously there's work to do, but like even just taking a second to like breathe has been a game changer for so many of my clients and myself, of just being like, hey, before you go do that thing, just like take a breath. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't go eat the candy out of the freezer, like just because I just did that. And I think it's so important to emphasize how simple it can be to make those changes in your life, because it doesn't have to be some monumental. Like I think, we talk about cold showers and plunges because I do those too. And I'm like, I love preaching that, but I know that like a small fraction of people are going to join in on that fun. But I think it's like, it's so important to recognize how simple it can really be to change your life and change your mindset with like one little tool like that.
Yeah, and I love utilizing the breath for that, because essentially the breath can move around the energy that might be stuck inside. So even, breath work can sound really overwhelming to people who aren't familiar with it, but breath work can literally be like, okay, I'm going to take 10 deep, long breaths. That's it. you just did breath work, right? So getting yourself to do something like that, I found can help you to be so much more present. And then there's a YouTube channel that I really like called Great Meditation. So just Great Meditation on YouTube. They have 5-minute meditations and 10-minute meditations. And if you find yourself with 5 minutes in your car or just during your day, just stop, give yourself those 5 minutes. It will literally change how you show up for the rest of the day. And oftentimes I get something so much more than I even came there for. Sometimes I come just to kind of focus myself. And then for whatever reason, the topic or the questions that they pose during the meditation brings up something that I just didn't even know was there. So I found that's another practice that I've really enjoyed to practice presence.
So one of the things I was thinking of while you guys were talking is the idea of like breath work and taking time and really diving deep into yourself. But I feel like a lot of times with social media, it's very easy. Like, you know, you're talking about like, oh, if I'm in my car and I have 5 minutes, I feel a lot of people just get on and just scroll aimlessly. Like they're taking time and they feel maybe like they're being productive or, you know, whatever it may be. But I feel like it seems so simple, right? Just like check in with yourself and like have that conversation. But I feel like a lot of times we just kind of do something else to preoccupy our minds. And so we don't actually spend a lot of time with ourselves, even though we're with ourselves like all day long, going through all the things, but actually sitting down and checking in. And so I like the idea of like journaling and doing meditation and like asking yourself those tough questions. So how would you encourage someone maybe to get into that practice or like kind of find themselves wanting to get in and try to develop more of that elite level mindset?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would do is take inventory. I would take inventory of all the inputs that you currently have into your mind, heart, soul, life. What that would look like is, okay, what are you scrolling? Like, what does your news feed look like? What are the podcasts you're consuming, the videos you're consuming, and then look at what result that's creating in your life. This could also be the friends, the conversations, the people that you're around. Really take inventory and say what's happening during and what is the result that it produces after. So practically that would look like, okay, I just scrolled on my phone for 30 minutes on the couch when I got home from the gym. What did that produce? I literally feel like nothing. I feel numb right now to life and society. Like I actually feel nothing. Maybe sometimes it produced feelings of comparison and actually increased your anxiety. Right. So it's taking inventory of all the things that you're doing throughout the day, the things that you're allowing into your life. Like so many people want to be a victim to their circumstances, not realizing that like we literally choose all of our circumstances and we choose the people around us. We choose who we're following and the news feeds and what we're scrolling and what we're reading and what we're intaking. And simply by changing our choices, we can literally change our entire life. So if you're looking to get into this and to really incorporate it as a lifestyle, I would say like, wake up. You literally have to wake up and choose what kind of life you want to live. If you want to live a better life, if you want to be happier, more grateful, positive, live in abundance, you cannot be consuming things that create the literal opposite of that. Friends at work, if you're always engaging with people that are gossiping nonstop, how does that actually feel afterwards? Gossip doesn't feel good. It doesn't do anything positive for yourself or for others. It doesn't feel good to relate over the bad weather. Like that's actually not a positive energy or frequency that you want to be on. So if you really want to change your life, maybe you're the one that brings up a different topic altogether and says something encouraging or says, hey, maybe, you know, let's change the topic here. You know, we don't need to be speaking about others that way. Like be the one to actually lead the way in the conversation or simply just walk away. But all of these small shifts in your life will, one, take a lot of intentionality on your part, but two, they'll open up space for you to choose something different. So as you're removing these things from your life, as you are no longer choosing to put the news on the second that you wake up or to scroll on your phone the second you wake up, what are you replacing that with? Maybe you're replacing it with a 5-minute meditation followed by a 5-minute journal entry. Maybe every single day you're writing down your gratitude, you're writing down your intentions for the day. You know, who do you want to be in the world? How do you want to show up? That's one of the number one things that I have people do in my program is write out their intentions every single day. Because what it does is in the morning when you're feeling good and positive and clear, you say, I want to be a space of love. I want to be an encouragement to others. And if you write that down during the day, then when you're at work and there's others that are speaking ill of somebody else, you're going to choose to walk away, and you're going to choose intentionally to go be a positive light in somebody else's life, or you're going to be the one that disrupts that conversation altogether. Why? Because you're holding yourself accountable to what you said you were going to do that morning. And it's just really choosing how you want to show up in the world, because the truth is, how you show up and what you put into the world is exactly what you're going to get out of it. So if you are getting negativity, you feel like you're surrounded by negativity, I really encourage you to look at your choices, look at your environments, look at the inputs inside of your mind every single day. You think you're just watching, viral videos that are making fun of somebody or that are of a tragedy or all of these things, and you think it's not affecting you. It's like the number one thing affecting you. So you really have to change your inputs. If you'll change your input, it'll be so much easier for you to choose something positive. What if your newsfeed, what if your conversations, what if your friendship circles were full of people that were encouraging you to be all of you, to discover more parts of you that you haven't discovered yet? What if they encouraged you to go for the workout, and instead of making fun of you for not eating what they're eating or drinking what they're drinking, they're saying, wow, I'm so inspired by you. Like, thank you so much for, leading the way with your discipline and your hard work. That makes me want to go home and meal prep. Like, what if you were in that kind of environment? There's a momentum behind that. There's an energy behind that, and it's infectious in the best way possible. So if you want to change your life, start to look at the inputs, start to take inventory, and replace it with positive things that actually produce the life that you want to live.
Shit. Sorry. I was talking and completely muted. Well, I wanted to just add to that as well. The reminder to the fact that, that all, like, it sounds like a switch that could flip and just like your life changes overnight, but it's really not. And it's really a daily choice and a daily battle. Because as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, like that's what I'm actually just very much working on and being present with myself right now. And I'm like, yes, 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 all these things. And then I'm like, man, it's so difficult. Like I'm going through these battles every day of, I want to go back to what's comfortable. I want to go back to the pattern that is already pretty well embedded and is easy, but it's not serving me. And we get really comfortable in those areas of our life. And, we have to choose to be uncomfortable, which is the whole theme of building that toughness and resilience. And it's not the easier choice, but it is the most worthwhile choice. And so I don't know if you have anything to add on that, but I just wanted to throw in that reminder as well of like, you kind of have to do this constantly.
Absolutely. It's a daily practice. And I always say you have two choices in life. You can evolve or die. And I know that seems extreme, but the highest version of you is dying inside every single day, that you're choosing to be a lesser version than you were created to be. Everybody has an incredible potential of love and abundance and happiness and peace that they can attain if they're willing to choose it. The truth is, not everyone's going to choose it. And honestly, that's okay. Just be confident in your decision. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to other people. If you're happy where you're at, then stay there. But if you're not happy where you're at, it's fully within your control to make changes and make a shift. And yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, you're going to have to do it every single day, but it will be so worth it. And you will just, I want you to imagine the highest version of yourself, the one that has done all the work. They have gotten to this life of abundance and love and happiness. And of course, they experience the hard parts of life too, but they've really attained this level of this mindset and relationships, and they've created such a beautiful life for themselves. Imagine them turning around and looking at the version that you are now and giving you the biggest hug and being like, thank you so much. Like, thank you for being willing to be challenged. Thank you for being willing to be uncomfortable, because you now live a life that you wouldn't even believe. Imagine them saying that to you, and allow that to inspire you to keep going, because it does get hard.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I love that. And I feel like, again, it's not this big radical shift. Like, it's just a small daily choices that you make every single day. And so I feel like it's really applicable to someone where it's like, yeah, you're not just going to like, okay, like I did my meditation, I did my intentions and my journaling, and I am just like this elite level person that I want to be now. So it's just making those choices every single day, and kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, where it's like, you know, maybe you had set out this intention, or, you know, you came across something and maybe you didn't handle yourself in the best way possible. That it's like, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you regressed. It's like, this is just an opportunity for me to be like, okay, what went wrong, or what could I do better in the future if I'm in a similar position?
Yeah. And I think a perspective that helps with that is seeing all of life as a learning opportunity. We're all literally in the school of life. So when I first started choosing this life of constantly evolving, I had moments where I judged myself and I was like, man, I thought I was past this. Even in my healing, I was like, I thought I had already healed from this. And the truth is, it's just not a linear path. It's not like you can check the boxes and never have to deal with those things again. Like there's levels, there's layers, there's depth to it. And every time that you come across it again, just ask yourself, okay, well, what can I learn this time? Clearly, I'm not past this, like, or else I wouldn't be in this situation. So what can I learn? What else is there for me? And just have this like curious mindset and perspective towards it, because, you know, we all fall, we're all going to stumble. It's not about not falling or stumbling, even on the same things. It's just about how can I be 1% better than the last time?
Yeah, I love that. And I know that Marissa and I'm sure that you do as well. It's kind of the idea of like progress, not perfection, right? Like it's just 1% better. And whether that it doesn't feel like it's this huge monumental thing, just a tiny bit better day in, day out, you're going to be in a so much further place than you are right now if you put in the work and do it every single day.
Yeah. And something else that came to mind when you were talking about how it's not like you're going to do these little actions and your whole life is going to change, you know, or it's not this monumental thing that's going to do it. I do have to say that I know that there are certain people that might be listening to this right now, and they actually need a monumental change. They are looking around at their life right now, and all they see is death. All they see is hopelessness, and they feel that their life needs to end. And I just want them to know that they are interpreting that message wrong. The life around you that you're looking at, the life that you've created by your choices and by circumstances and environment, that life might need to go. And which means that you need to choose a new life. You need to make some drastic change. If you're looking around and you're not wanting to live the life that you're living right now, then good, you have an opportunity to change. So say everything must change. Some people are in that state right now where literally everything around you needs to change. Other people, they can implement some daily actions and practices and create a more positive life. But others, they're in that really difficult spot in life where literally everything around you needs to change. You need to change your job. You need to change where you live. You need to get out of that toxic relationship, whatever it is. I don't even have to tell you. The people know, they already know what changes they need to make. And I'm encouraging you to do it, because there is a life beyond the life that you're living right now that you cannot see, that it exists for you. You don't have to question, is there a better life out there for me? 1000% there is. So be encouraged and take courage. It's going to take courage to leave toxic places and environments and people. But if you will be brave enough and willing enough to do that, there is a beautiful life beyond what you're currently experiencing, which I know comes with so much pain. But just be willing to make the change, because there is so much hope and so much light and so much life that is waiting on the other side of your difficult decisions and choices and actions that you're going to have to take.
Ooh, I love that. I love the message. And I think you're absolutely speaking to a lot of people, I'm sure, that, you know, we don't even know what kind of demons they're facing. Now, I do want to be sensitive to your time, because I know we want to wrap up in about the hour. We typically ask all of our guests one final question. Do you have time for that, or do you want to just wrap up?
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
Cool. So our final question for you is, if you had to give our audience just one tip to live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle, what would that tip be?
If I had to give you one tip to live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle, I would say take time to be present and to find what is within you. Because let me explain this a little bit. The very first time that I ever did a one-on-one breathwork session with a breathwork facilitator, and literally all I did was move my breath around for an hour. At the end of this breathwork, I got into this meditative state where I so tangibly could feel like my spirit and my energy inside. And it was the most amount of peace that I have ever experienced. And that didn't bring me to tears. What brought me to tears was the fact that that exists inside of all of us at all times, and we're just never taught how to access it. So more than giving you some sort of tip or something like that, I would encourage you and maybe spike your curiosity to get you to start to explore what is at the deepest part of your core. And I think that modalities of presence will help get you there, whether that is breath work, meditation, whether that is you praying, whether, whatever that looks like for you. I would encourage you to do that, because sometimes it's not the things around you that needs to change. It's you becoming aware of what's already inside you that needs to happen.
I love that. I had a feeling it would have to do with being present. So I love that we wrapped up with that.
Yeah. I feel like we probably could have gone on for another couple hours. So we do really appreciate you coming on and talking, and I'm sure our audience is going to get a ton out of this. So guys, we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. You can find both of us on Instagram, but Emily, where can they find you?
Yeah, just type in Emily Hayden. It's Emily and then Hayden on Instagram, YouTube. Let's see, Evolve with Emily on podcasts. So you should be able to find all my links through my Instagram though.
Yeah, highly recommend subscribing to everything.
Oh, thank you.
So perfect. Yeah, you can find both of us. You can find me on Instagram, Christina Lynn Fit. Marissa's at Marissa Roy Fitness. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope to see you back next week.